the world of technology is always moving. It's always changing, and there are a lot of different options that we're introducing. So today I wanted to talk to Rebecca about just general AR, VR, and MR technologies and how they're introduced. So just in a nutshell, how would you describe them?
So there's basically, people talk about VR, they've talked about mixed reality, spatial computing. There's a million different terms that are out there, but I think a really good way to think about it is that advanced augmented reality, which is actually what Magic Leap does. It's a device, a wearable device that allows you to actually see and hear and understand the world around you. And because you can do that, the computer then can actually place digital content really intelligently into the space. It understands the space, and then it can surface really relevant conversation and contexts and experiences, applications for you. I think a lot of people are really most familiar probably at this point with virtual reality. So one way to think about it is in that picture there you see on the left, virtual reality wraps a world around you, 360. So it obscures the world completely, which makes it fabulous for something like escapism or complete immersion into sort of a recreated environment or world. The downside of VR is that it isolates you from the real world. So being inside of a headset, you can imagine you're in this great new world, but you're stumbling around a physical environment, and that can feel pretty vulnerable. Mobile phone AR, which is that one that's in the middle there, which you can use on your iPad or your iPhone. Mobile phone AR actually lays digital content on top of your real world, but you kind of have this like small screen, like a small window that you have to hold up. So it falls a little bit short today in terms of its ability to really immerse you and experience and allow you to have real interaction with some of that digital content. But like I said, Magic Leap, however, which has been called mixed reality, if you're thinking of HoloLens, calls themselves mixed reality from Microsoft. We've toyed with the term spatial computing as well, which is out there. There's Web 3.0. There's all different ways of referring to it. But what it comes down to is it's like a supercharged version of mobile phone AR apps that is a platform, really incredible, powerful intelligence and world understanding that enables, like I said, that digital content to intelligently live in the physical world around you. And I think today, with Magic Leap's focus on equipping enterprise innovation, we're seeing some like really exciting applications.
Okay, that sounds very interesting. Yeah, the whole concept of spatial computing is rather new. Like we're still hearing a lot of stories that, hey, there is a cool startup that is like developing a technology in AR. Everyone is so, yeah, that's so cool. So taking it to the next level, I think it's actually amazing. And so, but it's also very difficult. Like the whole like point of introducing the new technologies that augmenting the potential of business is rather, it's a very rigorous task, and it's sometimes hardly obtainable. So do you have any stories based on Magic Leap experience, how you introduce your technology to an absolutely, let's say, at least less digital world?
Yeah, sure. So, in marketing in general, and, I've been in marketing in the past. At Magic Leap, I work a little bit more on the application and the UX side of things, but design in general. But I have a experience in marketing, and I've worked at a lot of technology startups, often that are delivering innovations, but that haven't quite proved like their urgency in the market just yet. And one of the really powerful ways to do that is through leveraging the familiar, and then looking at the market and real problems that can be solved, issues where you can really improve return on investment, and you can have a real powerful case study that helps people to understand how this really can drive meaningful outcomes. I think a great example of that is, hold on, let me change this slide here. Recently, we partnered up with, there's a company called Brain Lab. Actually, I think they're based out of Germany, and they've been a partner of Magic Leap since 2018. But they have been building software for healthcare, for surgical planning. And this is a really, really powerful use of the technology, and one that really can show how you can drive really meaningful outcomes that people can then understand. They might not understand the technology, but they can understand the power of that outcome in particular. We talk a lot at Magic Leap about the power of this particular technology to really amplify human potential. And I think this is a really great example. At UC Davis, recently, there was a 24-hour-long surgery to successfully separate two twin baby girls that were 9 months old that were conjoined at the head, which is a really rare condition. The team spent months in surgical planning, tracking the twins' growth, and they used Brain Labs software on Magic Leap to actually simulate that surgery in advance, because it allows you to put really high fidelity 3D models into the room, so that surgeons no longer really have to imagine that patient anatomy. They can actually examine it from every angle, and they can interact with it. They can play out certain scenarios. This solution in particular is deployed in a number of hospitals right now, in Europe and in the US. And it is regularly being used, to allow surgeons to collaborate with each other from across the world as well. Some of these areas, there are very few specialists, and so this provides a real advantage where they're able to collaborate on something together. And it also helps patients, I think, and their families prepare for surgery with their doctor in a way that's really easy to understand. They can see the models themselves. Medical students can learn and gain new insights. I think in general, when you're bringing new technology to market like this, it's really humbling to see, we talk about amplifying human potential, but it's really humbling to see our technology support these, superhero surgeons, and be able to bring home such a meaningful outcome, for these two baby girls and their family. And I think in general, when we talk about ROI, health in general for VR and AR is a priority vertical, and one that we're seeing a lot of investment in. We've had a team at Magic Leap working on healthcare since the very start of the company, and we have pretty deep health industry expertise. Our founder, Roni Abovitz, prior had founded a company called Mako, which made robotic surgical arms. We have an active clinical advisory board, 70 patent filings, and this market is really big. It's about we estimated about $5 billion. So healthcare is a really solid one, because the outcome is something that, whether you're enterprise or consumer, you read that story, you see a mother holding their baby girls, you can relate, and the power that drove that outcome is something you want to be a part of. So I think healthcare is a really good example. There's a few others in here that I can talk about too. Remote assist is one that is really a powerful example in assembly and manufacturing. I think it's interesting, like drones, for example, you might see them in Best Buy and they might be used in entertainment and whatnot, but industries like agriculture and insurance actually really propped up the drone industry, military as well, of course, but and they're not as sexy maybe as a consumer audience, but they're really powerful in helping us to really understand and explore and see what that return on investment can actually be. So in this circumstance, and this is another partner of ours, PTC, they have an application that allows for remote assistance, and that really helps support with training, assembly, upskilling. And again, this is one of the more popular areas for AR investment. These remote experts can actually join you when you're looking at something that you're trying to assemble or something that you're trying to fix. They can see what you see through the headset, and they can guide you through these really complex situations that you may not have accounted for in your training. So allowing you to check your work against really high fidelity models and avoid, really costly, dangerous errors in assembly. So this is another really powerful example of, you put the headset on, you're able to look at something, you're able to see real return on investment because it allows you to cut back on mistakes and increase or reduce your time to task, I should say. And then the last one that I'll talk about here today, before we move on, because I think it's a really great example, particularly with what has happened with COVID. COVID was the catalyst that no one wanted, and now it has become really apparent how important it is, with everyone moving to remote work and kids having to work from home, have school from home, that better collaboration is critical. And we can do that by merging, co-presence and communication tools. And I think, employers have become really open-minded about new tech in an effort to reduce a lot of that video meeting fatigue that I'm sure we're all experiencing. There's when you're in the office, there's a real exchange of energy with your colleagues. And I know I, for one, very much miss that. I work in a creative environment, and I really miss that exchange with some of my colleagues. But in any social setting, really, I think that we found that while Zoom and Hangout can keep us communicating, there's a real exhaustion that comes from sitting in front of a screen all day. The computer sort of, it takes in a way that that others that interacting with your colleagues doesn't. So I think finding ways to share ideas in a shared space where we can kind of move around. We do our meetings, a lot of these meetings in the headset, in virtual environments, and where we're all kind of co-located in the same room with our avatars and whatnot. Allows us to stay on our feet, examine 3D objects together, and particularly in design, that can be really, really powerful. And I think also medical pops up here as well in terms of telehealth, which has seen a really seismic shift. Since the pandemic, like 27, I saw a pretty startling statistic, which, it's really, really hard to change behavior, but 27% of people over 60 have used telehealth since the pandemic began, contrasted with just 5% pre-March. So, I mean, that's huge. And I think that's a really exciting sign of us really finding ways to innovate within the space of collaboration and how to improve that human communication. But I'll admit, we're still very much working on that part. So many things that have to fall into place, in terms of the infrastructure to be able to support that working really smoothly and being a better option than what we have today.
Yeah, but still, it sounds like a very good option, because, well, it's true. A lot of people are working remotely now, and most likely it will still be this way for at least another year. Yeah. So, and having this possibility to collaborate with someone when they're not, let's say, physically in the room, but at least having a glance of a feeling that someone is with you, it's much better than just sitting and staring in your screen. For example, I had to even start wearing computer glasses just because of all these endless meetings, and everyone has to show you something on presentations instead of just coming up to you and showing it on paper with something like that. And it's becoming very, very exhausting. But it's actually amazing how magically there's a leveraging the market, and especially in healthcare, how it's just basically revolutionizing everything that we know about it. And it's truly admirable. And so, well, basically, it also a show that business keeps transforming even during COVID, but obviously there's still some factors that are missing, or that some factors that are leveraging this diversity even more. So what do you think about this transformation? What else leverages this transformation?
Yeah, we talk about transformation a lot. That word is a buzzword for sure. And I think transformation obviously will leverage technology, but in order to do that, it's really critical that technology see diversity, real diversity. And I'll say this: digital transformation it's foundational change, and how an organization really brings value to its customers. It's a company saying we're going to totally shift gears to make sure that we're customer centric. And there's some really important technologies that help move that transformation along. You know this well. AI is one of them. Machine learning, facial and emotion recognition, object recognition is really critical. Businesses are going to be tapping into, really robust, rich data sets to try to do things better, faster, cheaper, and make their customers happy. But while all of this is really exciting, we have some real challenges ahead on that front, and some real problems to fix. For example, COVID has seen a real outsized impact on women, and this is a real problem for business. When women are leaving tech, and not just tech, but other businesses, it really does have an impact on the bottom line. And when you think about how products are designed, and how inclusivity is so important in the design process, real participatory design, for tech to really serve humanity, this becomes a really critical issue if you have women, leaving in droves to go home and take care of the kids. And that's because computers and AI, they are trained by humans. So obviously a lack of diversity on the other side of that machine presents, looming ethical issue. And really like the potential to give terrifying bias, deep algorithmic roots in the engines that really serve us knowledge and history. And I think, it's a pretty stunning statistic here. Around 18% of computer science graduates are female. And that number has been pretty static since 2008. 3% are African-American women and 2% Latinx. So, diversity, particularly among genders, has been shown to increase a company's bottom line. And I think there's a study dubbed the Global Leadership Forecast, which looked at demographics from 2,400 organizations and 54 countries. And the top line was that while women currently represent less than a third of all leadership roles, most of which are junior management positions, companies that have 30% gender diversity overall, and more than 20% at the senior level, outperform their less diverse counterparts, like in business outcomes all the way around. So I think this is a really important thing to understand. It is good business to have diversity. And not only is it good business, but it's really critical to make sure that the technology and products that we're putting in front of our children and our families are well designed and are designed as much as possible without bias, and at the very least with checks and balances to make sure that we are constantly designing for everyone, and when we're not, that we can see it.
Yeah, I think that this issue that there's a huge gender gap in technology, it's even like bigger than in any other industry, and it's quite drastic, and it affects everyone. Like I, for one, always try to empower other women who are like trying to go for technology, where my company is trying to find the best ones, like, who want to join us, so they have the equal shot at what they do, so they're being treated equally than everyone else. But even in Europe, like on our side, there's still also a huge gap in gender, and then it comes down to the age, to the salary, to the responsibilities, and it's very devastating. Obviously, it's getting a bit better now, but still, like until we reach this level of equality, I think it's going to take us at least until 2050, so we can see any at least something like that looks like equality. So, but
the only way, I agree completely, and the only way that things really change is, to your point, we have to empower women. And I am proud to say that Magic Leap, recently put Peggy Johnson as our CEO. I recognize, even at my level, that's a huge opportunity for me to learn from a really powerful woman in technology and in this space that's navigated a lot of the same issues that I've seen. And I try. Also, I care very much about empowering and mentoring women. In our company, I am the executive sponsor of our Women's Inclusion Network. And it's something I really believe in, but it doesn't change. Like it won't change unless we put more women in positions of power. So yes, empowering women is absolutely critical. And, you know, I like to say too, I'll just say on a closing note that I hear a lot of times about like, I'm intimidated, like I want to know how to get into tech, but like, I don't know how, or, you know, I wasn't really good at math and science or whatever. I was a creative writing major at Carnegie Mellon, which, you know, to be fair, does have a pretty high aptitude for computer science overall. But, you know, you can do anything, you can learn anything if you're passionate about it. And I think it's really important that we find women in roles where, you know, they're able to manage engineers and manage product development and manage design, manage business. So women really need to be across the whole organization. And if they're just in one or two departments, you need to take a good look at why.
Yeah. Kind of comes to the point that last year at the exact same conference, I was saying that you don't need developers to work with linguistics, you need computational linguists. So this year I'm going to say that you need more women in power, you need more women in your company, you need more women, like, you know, leveraging this diversity. And as someone who comes from, well, more or less technical background, like I'm a computational linguist, this is why I was so passionate about it last year when I was speaking here. I'm now in a position of like in a management position, I'm a C-level executive, and it's like, you know, it gave me a possibility to look over and take over quite a huge chunk of business that is like in technology. And it helped me, like my background helped me to get even better and to be an amazing specialist in it. So I really hope that in the future there'll be more women who are going to pursue technical careers at the universities, and then they're just going to get together and they're just going to change the world completely.
Yeah, I mean, product design, I think, oh man, I'd love to see more women in product design. I think this is super important. And again, like I just want to stress, it's not just women, it's diversity in general. These technologies, like they see people and we are training them to think. So it's really important that we have diversity there. So keep fighting.